Take the money and leave, he snapped, flinging a stack of $100 bills across the white linen table. They scattered like an insult. Anna stared at the cash. Then she lifted her eyes. Money doesn't fix betrayal. She said it in flawless Arabic. The billionaire froze mid-turn, his hand still clenched, his breath caught between rage and disbelief. He had been bleeding in a language no one else in the room understood, and she had answered him in it. Behind his shock was something darker recognition. He thought he was alone. He wasn't. And whatever had betrayed him tonight was about to be exposed. The Gilded Spoon wasn't a restaurant, it was a theatre. And tonight, the production was a tragedy starring the man at table 7. Anna Hayes moved through the opulent, hushed dining room with a practiced invisibility. Her black uniform was starched, her apron pristine, her smile a carefully constructed mask that hid the rattling engine of her exhaustion. She was a ghost in a 300-plate world, a world that paid for her mother's medical bills one humiliatingly small tip at a time. Her station tables 5 through 8 was usually the Gold Coast easy wealthy diners. But tonight, table 7 was a black hole sucking all the light and air from the room. He had entered an hour ago not like a customer, but like a conquering general who had just learned his army had been annihilated. Julian Algill. Even Anna, who didn't follow finance, recognized the name from the covers of magazines in the checkout aisle. Algie Global Holdings, a man who bought and sold skylines. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a bespoke charcoal suit that probably cost more than her apartment, but he wore it like armor that had been dented. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, and his face, which was devastatingly handsome in a severe hawk-like way, was a mask of cold-controlled fury. His eyes, dark and intense, missed nothing and dismissed everything. He was dining with 2 other men, both pale, both terrified. Both members of his legal team. Their food sat untouched. "It's a complete catastrophe, Julian." One of the lawyers, a man named Stephen, whispered, sweating despite the Arctic chill of the air conditioning. Catastrophe. Julian Algie repeated, his voice a low, terrifying rumble that cut through the clink of distant silverware. Catastrophe is a natural disaster, Stephen. This was an execution. Thompson Reed didn't just walk away. They took the building, the foundation, and the land. They spat on us. Marcus assured us the cultural sensitivities were handled. Marcus Julian said the name sounding like glass breaking. Marcus Thorne assured me of many things. Anna approached her silver water pitcher, held like a shield. "Excuse me, sir." More water. Julian Algie didn't even look at her. He didn't blink. He just raised a single dismissive hand. Anna retreated, melting back into the shadows by the service station. Her manager, Robert, a man with a ferret's face and a tyrant's heart, slithered up to her. "Don't engage, just clear and pour. That's Al Jamil. He could buy this block and turn it into a private parking lot. Don't bother him." "I wasn't," Anna said, her jaw tight. "He's been on his phone for 20 minutes. The man at table 9 is complaining about the volume. He's not being loud," Anna defended, surprised at her own impulse. "He's just intense. He's scaring the veil." Robert hissed and moved away. The tension at table 7 finally snapped. Julian's phone, which had been sitting face down on the white linen like a dormant bomb, buzzed. He picked it up, the color drained from his face, replaced by a stark white-hot anger. "Father?" he said, his voice suddenly chillingly formal. Anna couldn't hear the other side, but she saw Julian's knuckles turn white as he gripped the phone. He listened for a long, agonizing minute. His lawyers seemed to shrink, trying to physically merge with their expensive chairs. "Yes, Father, I understand. No, I will fix it. It was Thor." "Yes, Father." He hung up, not with a tap, but with a deliberate final press of his thumb. He stood up so abruptly, his chair screeched a sound that made half the restaurant jump. His lawyers flinched. "Leave," he commanded them. "Julian, we should debrief," Stephen began. Now the 2 lawyers scrambled, gathering briefcases, fumbling with napkins, and all but running for the door, leaving a trail of profound relief in their wake. Julian Alger was alone. He stalked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. a dark silhouette against the glittering lights of the city that had just today defeated him. He turned his back on the room, but the fury rolled off him in waves. He pulled his phone out again. Dialing, he began to pace a caged lion. He wasn't speaking English anymore. He was speaking Arabic. Anna froze. She knew that language. She knew the rhythm, the cadence, the passionate guttural flow of it. It was the language of her mother's lullabies, the language of her hidden self, the language she hadn't spoken to another soul since her mother had passed 2 years ago. He was speaking to Anna presumed his father again, or another relative, and he was not just angry. He was wounded. Kari and Yafamuni in Al-Sharafa Muima. They told me they understood. They told me honor was important. He paused, listening, his body rigid. Lakan Katang Katana. No, it was not a mistake. It was betrayal. Anna watched her heart a trip hammer in her chest. The restaurant, the tables, Robert had all faded. There was only the sound of her mother's tongue spoken by a man in agonizing pain. He hung up. His shoulders slumped. He looked defeated. He leaned his forehead against the cool glass of the window, his breath fogging a small patch. He didn't know he was being watched. He didn't know he was being understood. He closed his eyes and whispered to his own reflection. A phrase so quiet, so broken, it was barely a breath. A phrase of pure, unadulterated despair. Kinda everything is lost. Anna didn't think. She didn't plan. She didn't consider her job, her manager, or the billion-dollar difference in their stations. She simply moved. She walked from the service station, her footsteps silent on the thick carpet. She stopped, a respectful 5 feet behind him. He didn't turn. He probably assumed she was there to clear the abandoned expensive plates of his departed lawyers. "Sir," she began, her voice quiet. He waved a hand, a sharp, angry gesture. "Go leave me, sir," she said again, her voice a little stronger. He turned, his eyes on fire. What is so important? Do you want a tip? Is that it? Here." He jammed a hand into his pocket, pulling out a wad of cash and threw it onto the table. "Take it now, for the love of God. Leave me alone." The cash, mostly $100 bills, scattered across the linen. Anna looked at the money, then at him. She took a deep breath. The mask was gone. And in a voice as clear and classical as the one he had been speaking, a voice that carried the scent of jasmine and old Beirut, she spoke. "Al-Maulana. Money does not fix betrayal." The silence that followed her words was not just an absence of noise. It was a vacuum. It pulled the sound from the kitchen, the air from her lungs, the very blood from Julian Alga's face. He had been in the process of turning back to the window. Her words hit him like a physical blow, stopping his rotation mid-pivot. For a fraction of a second, he was perfectly still. A statue of a man caught between rage and shock. Then slowly, deliberately, he turned his entire body to face her. If she had thought his eyes were intense before, it was nothing compared to the look he gave her now. The fury was gone, instantly vaporized. In its place was something far more terrifying, a piercing, analytical, and profoundly dangerous curiosity. It was the look of a hawk spotting a rabbit that had just impossibly spoken. He didn't see a waitress. He didn't see the black uniform, the apron, or the name tag that read Anna. He saw an anomaly, an impossibility. His gaze swept her from her worn but clean black shoes up to her face, which she was struggling to keep impassive. He noted her features, fair skin, auburn hair tied in a severe bun, eyes the color of green olives. Nothing about her, nothing suggested she should be able to understand, much less speak the language of his private pain. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible, but it carried the weight of his entire empire. He spoke in Arabic, the syllables sharp and precise. "Madakulti. What did you say?" Anna felt the floor tilt. Robert was watching from across the room, his eyes narrowed. The couple at table 9 were openly staring. This was it. This was the moment she lost her job. The medical bill for her mother's last month in the hospital, the one sitting on her tiny kitchen table, flashed in her mind. It was $15,000. This job was her only hope of paying it off before it destroyed her credit, her life. And yet, she had spoken. She had a choice. She could apologize, pretend it was a fluke, something she'd overheard in a movie. She could bow scrape and beg for her job, or she could answer him. The memory of her mother's face, proud, unbending, even in sickness, gave her strength. She met his gaze. She did not bow. She did not scrape. She simply answered his question in the same flawless, unaccented Arabic. She repeated, "I said money does not fix betrayal." She then added her voice, softening almost imperceptibly. "Come, Anna, who lion just as it does not fix sorrow." Julian Alga's expression was unreadable. He took a step toward her. Anna instinctively took a step back, her professionalism kicking in. She was the staff. He was the guest. She had crossed a line. "I apologize, sir," she said, switching back to crisp professional English. "I overstepped. It was inappropriate. Please allow me to clear your table." She reached for a water glass, her hand shaking. His hand shot out not to grab her, but to rest on the table, blocking her from her task. "Stop," he said. It was an order, not a request. He looked at her, truly looked at her. "You said betrayal. You said sorrow. You were listening. It's a quiet room, sir. Your voice carries." "No," he said, shaking his head, a small disbelieving smile touching his lips. "You weren't just listening. You were understanding. You understood the context." He switched back to Arabic, his voice rapid fire. "Aunt Menine, where are you from, Carter Hataluga? How do you speak this language, man? And who are you?" Robert was now marching toward them, his face a thundercloud of managerial indignation. "Is there a problem here, Mr. Alga?" he said, his voice slick. "I do apologize for the interruption. Anna back to the service station now." Anna looked at Robert, then at Julian. She was trapped. Julian Alge didn't even turn to look at Robert. He kept his eyes locked on Anna. He held up one hand, a universal gesture for wait. Then, with his other hand, he reached into his jacket, pulled out a slim black wallet, and extracted a black credit card. He tossed it onto the table in front of the approaching manager. "Robert," he said, reading the manager's name tag with visible disdain. "I am buying your restaurant." Robert stopped dead. "Sir, I don't understand. I don't mean I am buying the building. I mean I am buying the room for the next hour. My lawyer's left," he said, motioning to the empty chairs, "but my account remains. I want the bill for my meal, the meal of the two gentlemen who fled. And I want you to add a service charge of $20,000. Robert's jaw unhinged. In exchange, Julian continued, his voice dropping to that lethal purr. "You will bring me a bottle of your most expensive scotch, the Macallan 72. You will bring 2 glasses, and then you and every other member of your staff will go to the kitchen. You will not come out. You will not listen, and you will not under any circumstances bother me or Ms. Hayes again. Am I clear?" Anna's heart stopped. "Ms. Hayes?" Robert, his greed wearing with his confusion, simply stammered. "Yea. Yes. Yes, Mr. Al. Of course, at once." He scooped up the card as if it were a holy relic and practically ran to the back. The restaurant, already half empty, began to clear out at an astonishing speed as staff quietly and urgently presented checks to the remaining diners. Within 5 minutes, the vast opulent room was empty. Just Julie and Anna and the distant, terrified sounds of the kitchen staff. Julian pulled out the chair opposite him. "Sit," he said. "Sir, I can't," Anna whispered. "I'll be fired. You were fired the moment you spoke Arabic to me." Julian said, his voice not unkind. "And you were hired by me in the same breath?" "Sit down, Anna." Her name on his lips was another shock. He had read her name tag. He saw her hesitantly, her legs feeling like water. Anna pulled out the heavy mahogany chair and sat down at table 7. The waitress in her sensible shoes was now a guest. Robert reappeared, his hands shaking so badly he almost dropped the glasses. He placed the bottle, 2 crystal tumblers, and a silver ice bucket on the table. He wouldn't meet Anna's eyes. He poured a healthy measure for Julian, and after a hesitant look for Anna as well. That will be all Robert, Julian said. Robert vanished. The silence returned, but this time it was charged with a million unspoken questions. Julian pushed one of the glasses toward her. "I don't drink on duty, sir." "You're not on duty," he said. "You're on consultation." He took a sip of his own scotch, his eyes never leaving her face. The fiery liquid seemed to have no effect on him. "You have 1 minute to tell me a lie," he said. "Tell me you're a linguistic student. Tell me you took a class. Tell me you find the language poetic. If the lie is good enough, I'll pay you what you just cost me, and you can walk out that door." Anna looked at the amber liquid. She looked at this powerful, broken man. "And if I tell you the truth?" she asked. Julian Alge leaned forward, the intensity of his gaze pinning her to the chair. "If you tell me the truth," he said, "you might just save my life." Anna stared into the crystal tumbler. The facets of the glass broke the dim, expensive light into 1,000 pieces, just like her life had just been broken. "I am not a linguistic student," she said, her voice quiet but firm. She pushed the glass away. "And I don't lie. Not about this." Julian waited. He was a man who was used to an information vacuum. He knew how to let silence do the work for him. He simply watched her, his expression a neutral mask, but his eyes were burning. My mother Anna began, her throat suddenly tight. "My mother was from Beirut. She met my father, an American journalist, during the war. He brought her back here to a small town in Indiana, where a woman with a slight accent and a love for different spices was an oddity." She paused, the memories washing over her, the smell of cardamom in their tiny kitchen, the soft, whispered Arabic poems her mother would recite when she thought Anna was asleep. She wanted me to fit in. She spoke English to me in public, taught me to be all American. But in private, she gave me her world. She gave me her language. It was our secret, our bond. She died 2 years ago, the hospital bills. Anna stopped, unwilling to show this stranger that particular wound. "I haven't spoken it to another person since her funeral until tonight." Julian absorbed this. He nodded slowly, not with pity, but with understanding. He had seen her hidden card, and she had just turned it face up. "Beirut," he said, a note of respect in his voice. "They have the best Arabic and the sharpest minds." He took another sip of his scotch. "You speak it like a native, better even educated classical. My mother was a professor of literature at the American University before she met my father," Anna said with a flash of pride. "She taught me to read his and Gebrand before I could read Dr. Seuss." It figures, Julian murmured mostly to himself, a poet's soul in a shark tank. He leaned back, steepling his fingers. The brief moment of personal connection was over. The CEO was back. "You heard what I said," he stated. "I heard you speak of betrayal," Anna corrected, "and lost the same thing in my world." He swirled the ice in his glass. "I am in the final stages of a merger with Thomson Reed. A multi-billion-dollar deal that would have merged my family's energy infrastructure with their technology. It wasn't just a deal. It was my legacy, my chance to prove to my father that his Western-educated son could still build an empire." He looked away, back to the window, and it collapsed. This afternoon, Thomson Reed walked claiming irreparable cultural misunderstandings. They said my final offer was aggressive, disrespectful, and tantamount to a hostile takeover. They claimed I insulted Mr. Harrison's family. "Did you?" Anna asked. Julian's head snapped back to her. "Insulted him? I offered him a partnership that would have made his grandchildren wealthy. I sent the offer in English and translated into Arabic as a sign of respect through my Vice President of Acquisitions, Marcus Thorne. Marcus has been my right hand for 5 years. He handled all the cultural sensitivity aspects. The man you mentioned on the phone," Anna said, "the man," Julian agreed, his voice hardening, "who is either the most incompetent fool in the history of business or something else." "You said betrayal," Anna reminded him. "My father Julian," said, his voice flat, "believes I was played. He believes I was weak that I trusted a Westerner with an Arab's game. And he is not wrong. The deal is dead. My reputation in New York is damaged. And my reputation in Dubai, he scoffed, is annihilated. My father has given me 48 hours to either fix this or come home in disgrace. And you think Marcus Thorne betrayed you, Anna stated. It wasn't a question. I think I know something is wrong. The terms Thompson Reed claims I offered are not the terms I approved. But Marcus swears the translations were perfect. He says they're lying, that they just got cold feet. But I felt it. The room went cold. Harrison looked at me like I was something he'd scraped off his shoe, and I don't know why. He leaned in, and the full, crushing weight of his power and desperation focused on her. I am in a room full of sharks, Anna, and I am bleeding. I am surrounded by people who speak English, who smile, who call me Julian. And I'm surrounded by my team from Dubai, who speak Arabic, who call me Saadi. And I realized tonight, his voice broke just for a second. I don't trust any of them. I am a man of two worlds, and I am an outcast in both. He paused, and then a waitress with the eyes of her mother from Beirut hears my despair and answers me in the language of my heart. Anna's breath hitched. This is not a job offer, Miss Hayes. I'm not offering you a position as a secretary. I am not offering you a respectable job with benefits. I am offering you a deal with the devil, and I am not sure which one of us he is. He stood up and walked to the window, pulling out his checkbook and a pen. I need your ears, he said, not looking at her. I need your mind. I need that thing your mother gave you. That ability to stand in two worlds at once. I need someone who can read the lines, and more importantly, read between them. I'm reopening the talks. I'm forcing a new meeting. I need you by my side. He wrote on the check, the sound of the pen scratching in the silent room. This is what I will do, he said. I will hire you as my personal cultural consultant for 1 week. He tore the check out and walked back, placing it face down on the table in front of her. That check, he said, is for $20,000. It will cover the medical bill you're hiding and the manager you're about to enrage. It's a signing bonus. Your salary for the week, should we be successful, will be 10 times that. Anna's mind went completely blank. $20,000. It was a number so large. It was abstract. It was freedom. It was danger. What do I have to do? She whispered. You have to do what you just did. Listen, understand, and tell me the truth. I am going to put you in a room with Marcus Thorne. I am going to have you read every email, every transcript, every memo. I need to know if I am a fool or if I am a victim. And if I find nothing, then I am a fool, and I will go home, and you will be 20,000 richer. And if I find something, Julian's eyes darkened. Then you will have helped me start a war, and I will win it. This was insane. She was a waitress. He was a billionaire. This was the plot of a movie, not her life. She should run. She should take the $100 bills he'd thrown on the table and run. She looked at the check lying face down. She thought of the hospital calling their voices polite but firm about the outstanding balance. She thought of her mother's wasted, pained last few months and the rage she felt at a system that cost so much. But most of all, she thought of Julian Alul's face when he'd heard his own language spoken back to him. It wasn't just shock, it was relief. It was the look of a drowning man who had just been thrown a rope. She put her hand on the check, but she didn't turn it over. I'm not your consultant, Mr. Al-Jil, she said. His face hardened. I see. Then take the C and go. I'm your translator. She said, her voice still. And my terms are different. He raised an eyebrow. Oh, you don't pay me to find something. You pay me for my time. That check is my fee for the week, not a bonus or retainer. Successful or not, you are buying my expertise, my mother's expertise. A slow, dangerous smile spread across Julian's face. It was the first time she had seen him smile. It was terrifying. You have steel, he said, and Fowler. I have rent, she replied in English. And I have one more condition. Name it, Robert the manager. He doesn't get fired, and he doesn't fire me. Julian frowned. He's a worm. He's a worm with a schedule. I'm going to walk out of this restaurant, and he's going to think I'm the craziest woman alive. But tomorrow, He's going to get a call from your office requesting a leave of absence for me for 1 week for a family emergency. And you're going to make it worth his while to say yes. I may be coming with you, Mr. Algel, but I need a world to come back to if yours explodes." Julian stared at her for a long time. Then he laughed. It was a short, harsh, rusty sound, but it was a laugh. A poet's soul, a shark's mind, and a strategist's caution, he said. "You're not a translator, Anna. You're a weapon, and you're mine for 1 week." He slid the check toward her. "My car is outside. We start now." Anna stood up. She picked up the check. She did not look at it. She folded it once and put it in her apron pocket. "I have to get my coat," she said, "and I'm clocking out." The drive from the Gilded Spoon to Julian Algel's penthouse was a silent, high-speed blur. Anna sat in the back of a black Maybach that felt larger than her apartment. The seats were soft, the ride was silent, and the air hummed with the same contained electric energy as the man sitting opposite her. Julian wasn't relaxing. He was working. 2 phones, a tablet, and a laptop were open. He fired off emails in English and text messages in Arabic. His thumbs a blur. He hadn't spoken a word to her since she got in the car. Anna used the time to breathe. She was still wearing her uniform, the check, a stiff rectangular promise in her pocket. She had called Robert from the staff room, her voice trembling. "Anna, what the hell did you do?" he had hissed. "I'm leaving for the night. You're fired." "No, I'm not," she'd said, amazed at her own audacity. "You'll be getting a call. Just wait for the call." Now riding through the canyons of Manhattan, she felt the first real spike of fear. What had she done? She was a waitress playing spy in a game where she didn't even know the rules. The car glided into a private subterranean garage. A private elevator opened directly into the apartment. Penthouse was the wrong word. It was a command center, a glass-walled fortress in the sky. It occupied the top 3 floors of a slender dark skyscraper. The main room was a cavern of glass steel and cold white marble. The view was staggering at 270 panorama of the city, but the furniture was sparse, uncomfortable, and brutally expensive. The only warmth came from a series of ancient, beautiful Arabic artifacts. A carved wooden door, a brass astrolabe, a wall hanging of intricate calligraphy that seemed at war with the modern, sterile environment. The room was not empty, despite it being well past midnight. A team of 5 people, all young, all sharp-eyed, all wired on caffeine, and adrenaline were clustered around a holographic data table. They all snapped to attention when Julian entered. "Status," he bit out, shrugging off his jacket and tossing it onto a chair. "Sir, Dubai is dark. Your father isn't taking our calls. Thompson Reed has gone to ground. Legal is drafting the press release, but it's grim," said a young woman with a severe haircut. "Scrap the press release," Julian said. "We are not in damage control. We are in counterintelligence." All eyes went to Anna. She stood by the door still in her black and white uniform, feeling like a crow that had wandered into a nest of eagles. "This," Julian announced to the room, "is Miss Anna Hayes. She is my new cultural liaison and chief translator." The room absorbed this with silent professional shock. Anna could see the questions in their eyes. "This waitress, she has my full, unequivocal authority," Julian continued. "She is to have access to everything. All emails, all transcripts, all recordings, all communications from the last 6 months pertaining to the Thompson-Reed merger. Everything. Is that clear?" "A, yes, sir," went around the room. One man, however, did not speak. He was not part of the young analyst team. He was older, perhaps in his late 40s, standing by the bar nursing a drink. He was blonde handsome, in a predatory country club way, and dressed in an immaculate expensive suit even at this hour. He regarded Anna with an expression of amused contempt. "Julian, my boy," he said, his voice a smooth baritone. "You've had a rough night. We all have. Perhaps it's not the best time to be making new friends." He walked toward them, his hand extended to Julian, pointedly ignoring Anna. "I just heard what Harrison did. The man's a brute. I told you, his family was old world difficult. I'm already drafting a counter out." Marcus Julian said, his voice soft, but it cut through the man's speech like a scalpel. Marcus Thorne, the vice president. The right-hand man, the traitor. This is Ms. Hayes, Julian said again. She'll be reviewing your work. Marcus's smile didn't falter, but it froze. He turned his full, charming attention to Anna. Ms. Hayes, a pleasure. I must say, your reputation precedes you, he said, his eyes mocking her uniform. Julian, where did you find her? The temp agency at this hour. Ms. Hayes is a specialist, Julian said, walking to the data table. A linguist. She's here to provide a fresh perspective. I'm concerned something was lost in translation. Impossible, Marcus scoffed. But a flicker of unease crossed his face. I personally vetted every translation. The Arabic was flawless poetic even. We hired the best firm in the city. This firm, Anna, said, her voice startling her with its steadiness. Did they translate the legal documents or the emails? Marcus turned to her, his smile tightening. The legal documents, of course. The emails were just day-to-day logistics. I'd like to see them, Anna said. The emails, all of them, especially the ones between you and Mr. Harrison. Marcus laughed. Honey, there are thousands of them. You don't have the clearance or the... He looked her up and down. The background. She has my clearance, Julian said. From the table. Get her the emails. Marcus now. The charm vanished from Marcus's face. He was staring at Julian as if he'd grown a second head. Julian, this is absurd. She's a waitress. You're letting her get her the emails. The menace in Julian's voice was absolute. Marcus's face flushed. He spun on his heel, yanked his laptop from his briefcase, and slammed it onto a table. Fine, whatever. Don't come crying to me when this specialist finds nothing and Harrison's lawyers are finished burying us. He stormed off toward the bar to pour another drink. Julian pointed Anna to a glass-walled alcove. The war room, he said. Coffee, please, she said. For the next 4 hours, Anna lived inside a nightmare of corporate jargon. Julian's team brought her a laptop, a tablet, and a steady supply all of black coffee. She sat at a steel table, all the city's lights blinking below her, and she read. She started with the official translations of the legal proposals. As Marcus had boasted, they were perfect. The language was beautiful, respectful, and clear. The terms were exactly as Julian had described, a merger of equals, a Shuraka partnership. There was nothing here. She felt a sinking feeling. Had she misread the entire situation? Was Julian just a paranoid billionaire, and was she just a pawn in his emotional breakdown? She opened the next file, the email, correspondence. Thousands of messages, logistics, meeting times, golf games. And then she opened the folder labeled Thor Harrison Private. These were not the formal emails. These were the one-on-one messages between Marcus Thorne and David Harrison, the CEO of Thomson Reed. They were chummy, full of corporate bro speak. She scrolled, her eyes burning. It was 3 a.m., and then she found it. It wasn't a long damning email. It was a thread from 3 weeks ago. Harrison had sent a query. Marcus, is Julian serious about this complete oversight clause? My board sees it as a full-scale takeover. It feels aggressive. Anna's blood went cold. She scanned the official proposal again. There was no complete oversight clause. She looked for Marcus's reply. Here it was. David, my friend. You know how he is. He's passionate. The oversight is just a formality for his father, a sign of strength. You know the Arab way. It's all about who is in charge. He's not just proposing a partnership, he's demanding. Well, let's just say he's demanding Saitara. Anna's hand flew to her mouth. Satara. It was an Arabic word. It did not mean partnership. It did not mean oversight. It meant dominion. It meant control. It meant conquest. It was the one word guaranteed to insult a man like Harrison. It was a word that implied subjugation. Marcus hadn't just mistranslated. He hadn't made a mistake. He had planted a bomb. He had taken Julian's proposal of Shuraka partnership and reframed it with a single, devastatingly precise word as a demand for Satara. He had weaponized Julian's own heritage against him. She read on. Harrison's reply was, I see, I see. Thank you for the clarification, Marcus. That changes things. We will be reviewing. That was the turning point. That was the moment the deal died. She looked up, her heart pounding. Marcus was standing by the window on the phone, his back to her, speaking in a low, confident tone. Julian was at the main table, his head in his hands, looking utterly exhausted. Anna stood up. She walked out of the glass room, the tablet in her hand. She didn't go to Julian. She walked right up to Marcus. He turned as she approached, a sneer on his face. Find your smoking gun, sweetheart. Yes, Anna said, her voice ringing out in the silent penthouse. She turned the tablet to face him. His eyes flickered to the screen, to the email thread. He didn't get a chance to react. Mr. Algil, Anna said, her voice projecting. I have a question. Julian looked up, his eyes dead. What is it? What is the Arabic word for partnership? Julian frowned, confused by the non sequitur. Sharaka, he said. And what Anna said, her eyes locked on Marcus, whose face was now the color of ash, is the Arabic word for dominion, for hostile conquest. Julian's gaze sharpened. He stood up. He knew the answer. Saitara, he whispered. Then, can someone please explain to me? Anna said, turning the tablet to Julian. Why, you're vice president? In a private email to David Harrison, described your offer of Sharaka as a demand for SATA. The tablet clattered as Julian ripped it from her hand. He read the screen. His face, which had been pale with exhaustion, was suddenly suffused with a dark, violent color. The silence in the room was absolute. He looked up, not at Marcus, but at Anna. You found it. He said he didn't make a mistake. Anna said he made a choice. Julian turned, his movement slow and deliberate, to face Marcus Thorne. You, Julian said, his voice a low vibration of pure, unadulterated rage, are a dead man. The immediate aftermath was an explosion. Marcus Thorne, stripped of his charm, turned ugly. You're believing her, he spat, pointing a shaking finger at Anna. A coffee fetcher in a cheap uniform. I've given you 5 years, Julian. I built your New York office. And you just burned it to the ground, Julian said. His rage was not the hot, explosive kind. It was Arctic. It was the cold, silent pressure of the deep ocean, the kind that implodes steel. You didn't just betray me, Marcus. You used my own language, my own culture, as the weapon. It was a misunderstanding, a word. You don't know the pressure I was under. Harrison was pushing. Your father was pushing. Save it, Julian snapped. He nodded to 2 very large men in dark suits who had been standing by the elevator, previously unnoticed by Anna. Mr. Thorne is leaving. He will not be taking his laptop, his phone, or his briefcase. Escort him from the building. His access is revoked. All of it. You can't do this. Marcus shrieked, his composure shattering. I'll sue. I'll go to the press. I'll tell them how unstable you are, how you hired a waitress to run your company. Try it, Julian said, turning his back on him. A gesture of ultimate dismissal. My legal team will have your professional life reduced to atoms by sunrise. Get him out. The security men, efficient and silent, took Marcus by the arms. He was dragged out, still shouting threats and insults, until the elevator doors slid shut, silencing him. The command center was deathly quiet. The team of analysts stared at their screens, pretending they hadn't just witnessed a corporate execution. Julian stood for a long moment, his back to the room. He was breathing heavily. So the lead analyst, the woman with the severe haircut, asked, "Find out who he was working for." Julian said, his voice ragged. "Sir." He turned, his eyes sweeping the room. That, he said, was the act of a disgruntled employee. That was sabotage paid for. He didn't just want the deal to fail. He wanted me to fail publicly and humiliatingly. He wanted Thompson, Reed, and all Gile to be enemies. Someone benefits from that. Find out who. He looked at Anna, who was standing, trembling slightly, holding the now empty coffee mug. Not you, he said. You come with me. He led her through the massive room, up a floating glass staircase, to a private study. It was a complete contrast to the cold expanse below. It was warm, lined with books, leather armchairs, a fireplace unlit, and in the center, a simple wooden desk. On the desk was a single framed photograph. Anna glanced at it. It was a younger Julian, maybe early 20s, standing next to an older, formidable man in a white gutra. The man had Julian's hawk-like features, but his were set in an expression of permanent, unbending authority. His father Julian followed her gaze. Sheikh Khaled Al-Jil. He said he builds nations, and he breaks suns. He slumped into one of the leather chairs, the rage finally draining out of him, leaving a bone-deep weariness. He looked small. He called me, Julian said, staring into the cold fireplace after the deal collapsed. The first thing he said in Arabic was, "So the little Western boy has failed." He didn't ask what happened. He didn't offer help. He just passed judgment. He looked at Anna. "All my life I went to Harvard. I went to Oxford. I speak English without an accent. I built this New York office to prove to him I could bridge his world and theirs. That I wasn't just his son, and I wasn't just another Western banker. I was something new, something better." He laughed a bitter sound. "And in the end, I was brought down by one word, one single fivival Arabic word." He was right. "I am a fool." "No," Anna said. Her voice was soft, but it cut through his self-pity. He looked up. "You're not a fool," she said, setting the mug down. "You were betrayed. There's a difference. A fool trusts blindly. You trusted the man you had every reason to, and you were stabbed in the back for it." She walked closer, driven by an impulse she didn't understand. "You want to know about my mother?" she asked. When she came to Indiana, she tried so hard to blend. She wore jeans. She learned to make horrible castles. She stopped speaking Arabic in public. She tried to erase the Beirut from her. And one day, Anna continued, her voice distant. "A neighbor, Mrs. Gable, a perfectly nice woman, told my mother she was so brave for escaping her barbaric culture." She said it with a smile. "My mother came home, locked herself in the bathroom, and I heard her weeping. Not loud, but these quiet, broken sounds. The sound of someone being erased." Anna looked at Julian. She came out 3 hours later. She had washed her face, and she said to me in Arabic, "Never let them make you small. Your blood is the blood of traders and poets. Theirs is the blood of corn." She never tried to hide again. A small smile touched Anna's lips. She was a warrior. She died in a hospital bed, hooked up to a dozen machines, but she never stopped fighting. She looked at the picture of Julian's father. "You're not a fool, Mr. Al-Jil. You're just bleeding. Like my mother was. Someone tried to make you small. They used your heritage, the thing you are most proud of and most afraid of, and they made it a weapon." Julian was silent. He was watching her, his expression unreadable. "So what do you do now?" he asked. First, Anna said, her professionalism returning, like a splash of cold water. "You call your father." Julian recoiled. "No. Yes, you will call him. You will not tell him you failed. You will not apologize. You will tell him in Arabic that you have uncovered a plot against your family. You will tell him you have found the traitor. You will tell him you are handling it. You don't ask for his help. You inform him of your actions. You are not the little Western boy. You are the son of Sheikh Khaled Al-Jili, and you are protecting the family name from an attack." Julian stared at her, a new light dawning in his eyes. He was seeing her not as a translator, not as a confidant, but as a general. "Second," Anna continued, "we don't go after Marcus. What, he's the traitor, he's the symptom, he's the hide gun. Your team is downstairs trying to find out who he works for. You don't want to find that out. You want him to tell you, and he won't. But David Harrison might." Julian was on his feet now, pacing. "Harrison, he hates me. He thinks I tried to conquer him. He thinks that because Marcus's friend told him so. Marcus didn't just play you, Mr. Olge. He played Harrison too. He used Harrison's own insecurities against him. Harrison doesn't hate you. He hates being played for a fool. Right now, he thinks you are the one who played him. We need to change his mind." "How we set a trap?" Anna said, We don't call Harrison. We don't send lawyers. We use the one thing Marcus built his betrayal on, the cultural back channel. There is no back channel, Julian said. Marcus was the back channel. No, Anna said, a fierce bright light in her eyes. I am. Julian stopped pacing. He looked at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, the exhaustion was gone, replaced by a raw, calculating energy. What do you propose, Miss Hayes? He asked. You're going to request a new meeting. Not with lawyers, not with teams, just you and Mr. Harrison, and one translator each. He'll refuse. He won't, Anna said, because the request won't come from you. It will come from me, and I'm going to send it in a way only a poet's daughter could. At 5 a.m., Julian's command center was buzzing. Marcus's dirty Sarah, the lead analyst, reported offshore accounts a massive payout. We can't trace the source, but the timing is suspicious. Julian needed no more. The Duval Group, he said, the name dropping like ice. A rival family. They compete with my father and Thomson Reed. A merger would have frozen them out of both markets. They paid Marcus to make us enemies. He turned to Anna. Your move. How do we get Harrison in a room Anna's team had been researching? Harrison, he's a collector, she said, pointing to a file specifically rare Arabic manuscripts. A small, dangerous smile touched her lips. I know how to get the meeting. 2 hours later, a courier delivered a heavy vellum envelope to David Harrison. It wasn't from old Joel. Inside was no legal threat, but a single, elegant sheet. On it, penned by Anna in flawless Arabic calligraphy, was a couplet from the poet Al-Mutanabi about a sword that strikes only where its master understands. Below it, a note in English. Mr. Harrison, it appears we have both been striking at shadows. A mistake has been made of translation. I propose a meeting, just you and me and our swords. Today, noon, the Fick collection. Harrison's reply was a single word confirmed. At the Fick, Harrison arrived with a colleague, Miss Evans, his face a mask of cold fury. You have 10 minutes, he snapped. We are both victims, Mr. Harrison, Julian said. Anna stepped forward. My name is Anna Hayes, she said. Mr. Thorne was not a translator. He was a saboteur hired by a third party. A convenient fantasy, Harrison scoffed. Is it Anna? Asked, holding out her tablet. On March 12th, Mr. Thorne was paid $2 million by a shell corporation. We believe you know their parent company, the Duval Group. The blood drained from Harrison's face. Duval, he whispered. They've been trying to force a sale on my tech division for a year. And by merging with me, you would have been too powerful. Julian said, connecting the final dot. Harrison's rage was palpable, but it was no longer directed at Julian. My colleague, he said, is my head of forensics. Miss Evans took the tablet. Her eyes scanned the data. This is actionable, she said, impressed. Harrison looked at Julian, seeing an ally, not an enemy. The Duval Group, he said, his voice a low growl. He extended his hand. Mr. LJ, I think you and I have a great deal to talk about. The war was swift. Armed with Anna's discovery, Julian and Harrison united, launching a devastating lawsuit against the Duval Group for corporate espionage. As Duval's stock vaporized, federal agents arrested Marcus Thorne. That evening, the new allies met in Julian's penthouse. The old deal was dead. We form a new venture, Harrison declared, and picked Duval's bones. Julian agreed, looking at Anna. And Ms. Hayes will write our new story. She is our new head of cultural strategy. At 3:00 a.m., Julian and Anna stood alone on the terrace, the city glittering below. I called my father. Julian said, his voice quiet. He said, that is the Algeway. You saved more than my deal, Anna. He stepped closer. You are all no falsum, the light in the darkness. Anna met his intense gaze, her own power rising. Be careful, Julian, she replied in Arabic. Al-Nor Yakif Ali-Sah. Light exposes secrets. I have no more secrets from you, he replied. But I have a feeling we are just beginning to discover them. He offered his hand. It was a handshake, but he held on a second too long. A silent, binding promise. Welcome to the company, Mrs. Hayes. And just like that, Anna Hayes went from clearing tables to running them. Her story with Julian Algae is only just beginning. The betrayal was stopped, but the war with the Duval Group has just begun, and the boardroom is now their battlefield. What do you think will happen next? Does this new partnership stand a chance? Or will the secrets they're just beginning to uncover tear them apart? If you loved this story and want to hear what happens to Anna and Julian, you have to let me know in the comments below. This story took a long time to write, and if you enjoyed it, please show your support. It means the world. Hit that like button. It really helps the channel. If you know someone who loves a story of drama and unexpected twists, share this video with them. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications so you never miss a new story. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next chapter.